Just a quick question. You recently commended the school in Mullingar, Wilson's Hospital School. And I was just wondering, did you have anything to say about the young man who's in prison?
Anything to say about Enoch Burke, Mr. Harris?
Anything
to say about Mr. Burke? Simon, anything to say about the teacher in prison for not agreeing with transgenderism? Simon, anything to say about Enoch Burke?
I was wondering if you have anything to say about Enoch Burke.
Enoch Burke, Helen, anything to say about Enoch Burke in
It's
prison?
private property, private party, private party, private party, private party.
I'm being pushed out, so I'm not being allowed.
It's a private event.
For justice.
Out of my way, please. Out of my way, you're in my way, my friend. Thank you. Hello, how are you?
Anything to say
Good to
about
see you. Get in my hand. Thank you so much.
Enoch Burke in prison for not accepting transgenderism?
Yeah.
Anything to say? Nothing to say.
Running away. This is the Taoiseach running away.
I'm not on the way. You're in my way.
There's not many people waiting to see you.
Does the Minister for Justice have anything to say about a man in prison for not agreeing with transgenderism?
Simon, you have to walk up. We've nothing to say. I don't think people are too interested. My son is in prison for the last year. I'd just like to know what
Okay, I'm okay.
Have you anything to say?
Hello, how are you?
Enoch Burke?
Very nice to see you. How are you?
The Taoiseach of our country running away. He won't tell me what he thinks about Enoch Burke. Yes.
Does the Minister for Justice have anything to say about Enoch Burke? She's running away as well.
How dare you hit my phone? How dare you hit my phone? Maria Walsh just hit my phone. She's trying to shake it out of my hand.
Anything to say, Helen, about Enoch Burke in prison for not accepting transgenderism? Running away, silent.
Just be careful the car behind you there.
Nothing to say. You've
You
come to
might not care about yourselves, but we
Castlebar,
do.
a
Go on,
teacher
Ted.
from Castlebar in prison for not accepting transgenderism and nothing to say. Running away.
Fantastic candidate,
So what have
right
you
to right
to
the
say,
country.
Helen,
So
about
vote
it?
Fine Gael on June 7th. Thank you very much.
Nothing to say. Head down. Nothing to say.
Here to support my
Nothing to say.
We have
What about Enoch
fantastic
Burke?
candidates right
Minister
throughout
for
the
Justice,
country
what
that
about
believe
Enoch Burke?
in multiple issues.
What about Enoch Burke?
He's running away today. Say that
Oh, she's
today.
getting into her car now. She's going to run away. She's not going to speak to the people. She's not going to speak to the people. She's not going to speak to the people of Castlebar. She's here in her BMW. Nothing to say.
This is her now running away.
Are you happy now?
Now, she's running away, look. Drive off now. Drive off now. That's her now. As fast as she can go. Running away from one simple question. What do you have to say about Enoch Burke?
Here in Castlebar, we feel the need to highlight a few of the issues that have been spoken of in the media in the past few days regarding the Burke family and the situation with Fine Gael, and in particular Taoiseach Simon Harris and Minister McEntee. They visited County Mayo on Sunday. They visited Charlestown and Swinford. While in Swinford, my daughter was there. She was present. She asked to speak with him, and he obliged. But she did remark on the fact that he had sent a video to Wilson's Hospital School commending them. This was the end of term. I don't know if he sent a video to any other school in the country, and we were absolutely startled to see this, commending them, commending their principal, Frank Milling, and teacher, Mr. Lee, as far as I know, who is a promoter of transgender and LGBT activism in the school. Now, we were absolutely shocked about this, that he would particularize that school. He would single it out and send a special word of thank you and commendation to Frank Milling. Now, Frank Milling, as far as I'm concerned, is a bully boy. He has bullied my son and abused him as he stood at the school door. Yes. And yet, Taoiseach Simon Harris singled him out and commended him. Now, the situation with Wilson's Hospital School is that Niamh McShane told my son that it was expected of him. She demanded that he endorse transgender activism in the school. This is something he could not do, and he doesn't need to do that. He has religious rights. He has a right to have and to profess and to practice his religion. And that's against his religious beliefs. So he just doesn't do that. That is the beginning and the end of the saga around Enoch Burke. Niamh McShane, principal of Wilson's Hospital School, had absolutely no right to do what she did. And this has ended up with Enoch Burke, my son, being in Mountjoy prison now with murderers, sexual abusers, drug barons. His crime is that he will not endorse transgender ideology. That's why he's there. He has religious rights and he has a right to say no. That's what he did. So my daughter asked Simon Harris, had he anything to say about Enoch Burke? And of course Simon turns on his heel and runs. So that was the beginning of what happened on Sunday in County Mayo. Now, as far as we know, we weren't there. Simon Harris then moved on to Castlebar, and they met in Cup of Joe's, himself and his team, Fine Gaelers, and they had a private party in Cup of Joe's, attended, as far as I know, only by Fine Gaelers.
Members of the public were blocked.
Members of the public were blocked. Yes, there was a sign on the door saying private party. My daughter managed to enter in again, simply to ask himself and Minister McEntee, had they anything to say about Enoch Burke, a young man, an excellent, sincere, upright, highly intelligent young teacher who is imprisoned because his rights have been taken from him. Here we are speaking to the Minister for Justice, Helen McEntee, on a salary of over 220,000 per annum. And Simon Harris, the Taoiseach, probably on a salary of 240, 250,000, 5 times the average wage
before expenses
in this country before expenses. She was pushed out the door by, as far as I know, Alan Dillon's sister-in-law, and told to get out of the place. So you weren't welcome in that restaurant unless you were a supporter of Fine Gael. Now, this is very sad what's happening, and that, you know, we're getting a totally wrong story here from the media, from the papers, from the local radios. We're hearing about harassment and violence and jostling. What happened in Castlebar last Sunday was that my family wanted to ask Taoiseach Simon Harris, Minister McEntee, a simple question. She's the Minister for Justice. Had she anything to say about Enoch Burke, whose rights, whose religious rights have been taken from him? On a salary 5 times the average wage. She walks into Castlebar. As far as I know, the streets are empty. There's nobody around, only Fine Gaelers. They have the RTE cameras are ready at the pikes in the square in Castlebar for a press conference. So it's all set up. They're really speaking to nobody. They're talking to nobody. This is this very sad situation we're in, that we're hearing lies. We're hearing of a protest. There was no protest. My family, my husband and my daughter and son wanted to simply ask them a question. What have they to say about Enoch Burke? They're threatening a Garda investigation about what happened at the weekend in Castlebar. I would say bring it on. Send the guards to our house because we didn't do anything wrong. Send the guards, Simon. If you're listening to this video, send the guards. Have that investigation because there was no violence from the Burke family. As far as I know, there was violence from a Fine Gael councillor who pushed my daughter. Who pushed my daughter, who grabbed her phone and flung it on the ground.
I might just clarify that. So, as you've said, we're hearing about a Garda investigation into what happened on Sunday. And what we did see on Sunday was, number one, Maria Walsh, MEP, attempt to snatch a phone from somebody's hand. We saw and almost knocking it out of her hand. We saw my dad, Sean Burke, being assaulted by a Fine Gael team member. We saw another situation where my sister's phone was almost wrenched. It was indeed wrenched out of her hand by a Fine Gael councillor and smashed to the ground, to the Westport, by a Fine Gael councillor. very prepared to share that information should the need arise. But if there is an investigation, there's plenty to talk about.
Now, the situation in the country is out of control with crime. We know that. Murder has doubled, as far as I know, in the past year. Theft crime is the highest in the history of the state.
In Swinford, County Mayo, where Simon Harris visited, the crime level there is the highest now that it's been in 10 years. So that's the situation that we're in.
And McEntee wants to walk into these towns and villages and smile and get her picture taken, do her press conference, and expect us to ask no questions. Now, as far as I can see, the harassment is the question. You're not supposed to ask any questions, but we will ask questions.
Absolutely.
We have a right to ask questions. These are people who are on huge salaries.
Absolutely.
She is the Minister for Justice. Every citizen has a right to be on that street and to ask her questions. We're getting to a place in this country where you're made out to be a criminal.
Absolutely.
You're made out to be a criminal if you ask these people a question, but we will ask questions. I did ask Alan Dillon a question at Christmas as he was walking into Tesco.
Yes.
I just asked him a question on his views on Moira Whelan, who was put into the appointed to the Court of Appeal. She shouldn't be there. She broke every rule in the book. She was put in by Fine Gael. Micheál Martin said that it was outrageous. It stinks, he said, to high heaven. He was going to press the nuclear button, but he didn't press any button. That's Micheál. She's still there, a promoter of transgender ideology, working for the Fine Gael party. Has Simon Harris anything to say on that? See, the problem is Simon doesn't believe we have rights.
No.
And Simon's passion now is to bring in the hate speech bill.
Yes.
And I'm sad, and it's disturbing to see we have so many candidates going up, European and the local elections, and very little has been said about the hate speech bill.
I don't think a word has been said, almost.
Very disappointing, I must say. This is Simon's passion. He is going to push forward that hate speech bill, that radical bill that has shocked the world. And not a word from our politicians. Shame upon them. And you know, it's to silence those, especially those with religious beliefs. He wants to silence them. That's why he's running from the Burkes. Because my son is in prison, he's in Mountjoy, because he has a religious belief and he's refusing to surrender it to transgender ideology. As simple as that. And the courts, the executive, the guards, the whole lot of them working together. He's standing against that. He's standing up for his rights. And Simon wants to take those rights from us. This is very serious. Himself and the Green Party, Catherine Martin, Pauline O'Reilly. God help us. This woman should not be near government buildings, never mind the European Parliament. This woman, these Green Party, they have destroyed the farmers. No wonder the 50% of the farmers are depressed. High suicidal rates. The re-wetting of the lands. The culling of 200,000 cattle. Where is this going to end? Pauline wants to get to Europe. She worships nature. She's a worshipper of the earth. The Green Party have no time for the true God. They worship the earth. You know, she's going over there. She wants to serve nature. She wants to serve the earth. This is why the farmers are depressed, because there's no end to this. Get the Greens out of government. They need to be shown the door. You know, God is well able to look after the planet. He's well able. Seed time and harvest, summer and winter, cold and heat, night and day, forever shall be. God is able to preserve the earth. He doesn't need Pauline O'Reilly to protect it and lift it up. She's destroyed our country and the likes of her. They should be gone. Wipe out the Greens. But Simon Harris is a dangerous man. Simon Harris is a liar. He is a liar. And he has come into Castlebar and he said that we protested. We weren't protesting. He said that we hassled, that we harassed, that we jostled. My husband ran after him because all he did was come into Castlebar and he ran through the town and he threw his hand here and there at different people. Most of them didn't know what was going on. This is nonsense. This is not meeting the people. This is a new kind of politics. And it's an absurd, it's a fake. He's a spin doctor. That's what he is. It's for the cameras. And shame upon it. Bring on the guards, Simon. Bring them on, because we have rights and you won't take them from us.
Simon,
and we need to vote these people out. Show them the door. Simon Harris, the Green Party, show them the door. And Minister McEntee needs to go. She needs to go. We don't have a minister for justice.
It's a shame. It's an embarrassment.
It's an embarrassment. We don't have a minister.
It's just an embarrassment.
It's up to the people. It's up to the people. And whoever is elected, you know, because I don't have faith, I don't see much out there. You need to make them accountable, whoever they are.
All of this is about bullying ordinary people into silence. And that's what we've seen over this weekend. Some people ask Simon Harris a question. They ask Helen McEntee questions. And it's always interesting, the response, whenever there's disquiet, whenever there's anger, or whenever there's concern among the public, the response from these people is always the same. It's not to say, I wonder why people are angry. I wonder why our voters don't want us anymore. The answer is more guards. The answer is to threaten.
Suppression.
The answer is to threaten you. And that's what we've had now.
It's the bruise of the law.
Simon Harris
Yeah.
is not listening to you. Simon Harris is calling up the guards. And right now, as I speak, the guards, I think it's in Castlebar or Westport, I'm not even very sure, are engaged in a ludicrous operation. They're supposed to be investigating the circumstances of what happened. Simon Harris doesn't give, he couldn't care less about crime in this country. He has sent the guards in Castlebar to start investigating a non-incident. An incident, I would say, an incident of democracy. They're investigating democracy when someone asks Simon Harris a question. I'd like to just briefly, as we close, address something Simon Harris said about my dad, Sean Burke. He said he clearly didn't understand how the Constitution worked, addressing the question about Enoch Burke, who's in prison now for over a year. He said, we live in a country where the court and the government are separate, and people need to abide by the rules of the court. This is breathtaking. And I'd like to just remind you, when Simon Harris speaks about how important it is that the court and the government are separate, I'd like to remind you about the appointment of Moira Whelan, even as we wrap up here this evening. Moira Whelan, a corrupt appointment. Moira Whelan, a national scandal. She was appointed to the post. Yes. 3 High Court judges were overlooked. Moira Whelan sat in the same room at the cabinet table while her appointment was being discussed.
It's scandalous.
And guess who else was in the cabinet room at the time? Simon Harris. And he sat there while separation of powers was dealt a body blow in this country. And now we have a situation where the judiciary is entirely not independent. They're hand in hand with the government. They're implementing government policy. Enoch Burke is an example of that. He sat before Moira Whelan, he appealed for justice, and she put him behind bars. Simon Harris has presided over the demolition of separation of powers in this country. And
democracy.
Please remember that when he talks about the importance of the court and the government being separate. And I would also just point out that he talks about the fact that he can't talk about Wilson's Hospital School. He just can't address that issue. And a few days ago, he spoke to Wilson's Hospital School. He sent a video to that school. He's very well able to talk about it when he wants to. So that's the situation we face in this country. I would just encourage you not to be bullied into silence. Stand up, question your representatives, engage in democracy, and send Simon Harris a message this weekend that we reject him and we reject his ideology, and we stand up for the right of people to question their representatives and to engage in democracy in a full way.